Hey guys, this is usually all right, and today we're gonna be doing another tier list because it did so well last time.
Well, we had fun doing it at the end of the day, but we
We
wanted to
did,
talk about starter ships, which we don't necessarily have any qualifications for, but we do know that a lot of people are getting into the game these days. And there's some events over the summer that push people into the game. So we want to talk about that so people can make the best choice they hopefully can make when they're looking at starter ships.
I just want to give a little bit of my background on starter ships. I started the game and then started playing with an org like the week after I started the game, and they immediately gave me like $7 million AUAC to go and buy, whatever ship I wanted. And so my first starter was a cutter, and I probably spent zero time in that ship. Since then, I've bought quite a few starters just because I want to try them out in game. But usually I just use them to ferry from my spawn point to the station above.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Honestly, most people for most of these starters, that's going to end up in the long run being your main use of these ships. They're going to be your point A to point B runabout. My own experience with starters is mine first was the Intrepid, and I did actually fly it a lot because I didn't join an org right away. When Dylan joined me in playing the game, he joined the org that I had been playing with right away, and yeah, we kind of spoiled you right off the bat. But I had a Intrepid, I did fly it a lot, and I did eventually CCU it, and we've actually both flown pretty much every ship on this list extensively. I think we actually both have
Yeah.
multiple hours in every starter ship.
One of them specifically for me more than the other ones, but I'll get to it.
All right, well then, why don't you intro our first ship?
All right, so the first ship here is the Origin 100i, and we're going to just kind of do the 100 series.
I am not a big fan of this ship. I think you are probably going to like it a considerable amount more than me. It's just one of those ships, and this is going to be a common theme here, that is dated in the history of the game.
100%. I actually fully agree with you. I don't think the ship is very cool. I like the Origin styling. I think it's one of my favorite ship brands.
There's not even a starter package for this one available anymore. So if you're just buying into the game, don't look for this one. And if it does appear, I would avoid it. It has 3 variants, and none of the 3 are very useful. The 135 for a starter is probably the best. It's the cargo one. And even then, it gets pretty outclassed by everything on this tier list for the most part. I don't know if there's a lot more we can say about this other than I'm pretty certain this is just an easy bottom of the barrel starter.
I would, yeah, I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you because I feel like we're gonna fight on a couple of these.
Well, no, let's hear it
So
out. Let's hear it out.
I just think it looks cooler than a lot of the starter. So like if I was trying to sell somebody on the game, I'd want them to fly a cool looking ship, unlike what I did with the cutter. So I think it almost goes up to cool enough, literally just off of how it looks.
I think that the reason I think it's dog tier is because of the ship we're about to talk about next.
All right. Since you brought that up, we can leave
Yeah.
that right in dog tier.
Yeah. I think the 300 series, it is a little bit more expensive, is a step up from the 100i in every way. It still feels dated, but it's a ship that is a little bit more capable. It is definitely cooler, in my opinion. And it's not to say they're not both cool. And the 325A is actually a pretty respectable interceptor and fighter that people can use even into late game content if they equip it right. And that gives it a huge step up over the 100 series.
So you know well my love affair with this ship.
Yeah.
This is the first ship I ever grinded to. I started doing bounty missions in the cutter until I made, I can't remember exactly how much it is in the game, but I think it's like 1.5 million or something like that.
I think it might be a little
AUEC.
more than that, actually.
It might be. I can't remember though. But yeah, I just did bounty missions and some light hauling in the cutter until I got up into to where I could buy the ship, and then it just kind of changed the game for me. I would just, when I was waiting for the org to do stuff, I would just go fly off and do bounties until everyone was ready to go, and then I'd pop back. And it's freakishly fast for like its tier in the game. Decent damage output, and I think it's beautiful. I think it's like one of the best looking ships, interior and exterior.
It is so fast that for a new player, especially, you're likely to get yourself killed in it a lot. And we have a direct example of that here. The day you bought the ship, we were trying to get an executive hangar ship for you, if you remember. And you jetted off to Stanton because you had enough money to buy it. And you showed up and promptly crashed it into an asteroid because you couldn't stop.
Yeah, and I did not set my spawn
Yep.
uh, in Pyro, so
So
I had to fly all the way back in shame.
the ship's going to have a bit more of a learning curve because of that, but it's definitely fun. And being able to just black yourself out by deciding to hit the W key or push your throttle forward, when you first get into the game, it's satisfying and it has a good experience. I'm more curious about if you think this is B or C.
I would probably put it in C, honestly. Even though I love it so much as a starter ship, I don't think it's like amazing.
And this is another one that's worth noting that doesn't have a starter package and hasn't for a while, but it has in the past. You can get this as an actual starter, but not right now. And there's a reason for that, right? There's a reason for that. And next up, we have something that I don't, for people that have been in the game, you might not recognize this as a starter, but the Arrow is actually a starter ship. There's a starter fighter. It has had game packages sold with it in the past. And the Arrow is a great little ship, in my opinion.
I think that the Arrow is a super cool little fighter, but for me, I don't consider it a starter because you can't do you can only do one gameplay loop really in it.
Okay. But there's other ships on this list that won't lock you to one gameplay loop. It is a starter, it is a specialized starter for that gameplay loop, would be my argument. I do think the Arrow has some issues, which we'll come to. But I think for this being a combat starter, it's in a pretty good place. And in fact, I think the thing that makes it not feel like a starter is that for people that are new to the game, the Arrow is the best or tied for the best fighter in the game for PvP. The Arrow is in a obscenely strong PvP ship in the hands of the right pilot, which makes it immediately feel like it can't be a starter because of that, but it is. It has, and I think that's actually one of the things that makes it difficult for new players. And I actually think a big downside of it is, again, that it's dated. It doesn't have physical components, which the 100 and the 300 series didn't either. But that means that for a new player, you're not going to be able to actually check out every element of potential gameplay, even within your loop, right? Even in fighting, like you don't have physical component access. It has smaller guns, so you do hit a wall on what you might be able to accomplish pretty early, unless you skill up as a pilot very quickly. And it is a little bit on the pricier side for a starter, but I do think it is a starter.
Okay. I think the fact that it's $15 more than the Avenger bumps it to like a weird place for me.
I agree with that. I mean, I agree. I
Because the
think the
Avenger,
issue is that there's ships we're going to talk about on this list that for PvE content are going to be just as capable, if not more capable, than the Arrow, and can do more.
yeah. So for me, I'm putting in cool enough.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Um,
And I would put it behind the 300 series because it doesn't have any extra functionality.
I think especially because it is, if you were to buy it as standalone, it is $5 more expensive than the 325.
Next up, we have the Aurora Mark 1. Now, there's a lot
Dog
of
tier.
variants of this ship. We'll get there. For new players, this is not something you can buy anymore, but a lot of people watching this video, you may have bought a starter package in the past that has an Aurora as your starter ship. It did get
You got
updated.
hosed.
It is in a better place, but this ship is basically an automatic D tier because of its, and we'll talk about this next, actually, just bump this up, because of its Mark II. And even then, this ship is just not capable of very much. Personally, I don't think the Aurora looks great either. I don't know where you land on that, but it doesn't match with the rest of RSI's design language. I've never been a fan of it. I was not a fan of it even after the gold standard.
Yeah, the Mark One is ugly. When I was doing bounty missions, loved blowing that thing up.
This thing blows up fast, too. Real
Yeah.
fast. You're going to kill a lot of these in your early missions over and
Yeah.
over and over and over again.
The enemy
If
pool
you-
has changed a little bit, but yeah, you'll still see
Yeah.
them.
I mean, if you want to fly the grunt ship around the verse, this is your ship in a lot of ways. But the Aurora Mark II, that is a different story entirely.
Completely different. It's beautiful. It's good. It with the modules, it can do a bunch of stuff. Which, like, yeah, you have to spend $10 more, but that's cheaper than I think every other ship that we've talked about besides the Aurora Mark One. Still, even with spending the $10. So yeah, that thing's gonna go right and transcend it. It also has one of the best launch trailers ever that I've ever seen, besides maybe the M50 Top Gear thing.
Yeah, it's very good.
That
And the best way to put the
so
Aurora Mark
cool.
II is it is $45 with the game package, I believe, without the extra modules. Is it 50 or 60 with them? And for that, you get a starter that is legitimately capable of engaging in all of your basic gameplay loops right away. It can do early combat, and it can do it well. It can do early hauling, and it can do it well. It gets you around the verse. It's fast. It's fun to fly. It looks great. It's well thought out. It's, I mean, it just works. And it's doing everything that pretty much all the other starter ships want to do. Maybe not the best in every category, but at a significantly cheaper entry point into the game. And that makes every other ship on this lineup almost difficult to sell you on because the Aurora Mark II exists and it just already does
Yeah.
it.
It's like when somebody's looking for their first car and they're like, do I buy a 2002 Mustang GT or a 2002 Honda Civic? The 2002 Mustang GT is cool, but the Honda Civic is just a better car across the board.
I mean, I think another strong thing here is this is the newest starter ship. In a lot of ways, it set a new fidelity benchmark for things in the game. If you start in the Aurora Mark II, there are ships that you can step into that are older, like one we're going to talk about later on this list, where you are going to immediately feel like you were in a different game graphically and just accessibility wise. The Aurora Mark II is just a much higher standard than a lot of other ships in the game. And you can tell because they made it a priority. This is going to be one of the most popular ships from a sales perspective, and they put everything into it. So yeah, if you're looking at the starter packages today and you want to walk out with one thing in this video, our recommendation is go get the start of the Aurora Mark II package. Now, if you are interested in some of the deeper gameplay loops or something that not everybody else will be flying, do stick with us. We have lots more to say about the other ships that might interest you, but this thing is kind of the best of the best.
Or pause the video, go and buy the Aurora, and then come back and just relish your good investment.
Yeah, we'll tell you why this is better again and again and again. For the most part, there's two other ships on this list that I think are actually also very good starter points if you're interested in different gameplay loops. But with that, I think we can move on to the Avenger, which in a lot of ways is what the Aurora Mark II used to be, in that it used to be the best. It's not quite so much anymore.
It's still up there, though.
It's still up there, but its
I think
age
that's
is showing.
undeniable.
I think its age is showing.
Yeah, but it's a classic.
It is a classic. And I do think that in terms of being a fighter, this thing is a little bit more capable than the Aurora Mark II, but it doesn't have a lot of things that you expect out of a modern ship. It really needs a gold standard pass. It needs to be brought up to the modern level in the game. And even with all that, it's still really good. At a minimum, I think that this is right, and are the rest of them even trying?
Yeah, I think there's some like argument for it still being almost transcended, but just because it's not nowhere near as good as, but just because it's not as good as the Aurora Mark II, I don't think it could be on the same tier.
Yeah. I mean, the Aurora Mark II, until the Aurora Mark II came out, this was pretty much the recommendation for a starter ship in the game.
This is one of the ships that I have had almost zero time in, though, on this list.
I've flown it quite a bit.
After a patch, I was randomly, I guess, selected by Chris Roberts to test fly this thing for a patch, and then the game patched and it went away. I don't know what that was about. It wasn't a free fly or anything like that. It just showed up in my hangar one day, and then the next it was gone. So I had a little bit of time with it, but
yeah, I mean, so specifically the variant we're talking about here too, guys, is the Avenger Titan. If you see the others on the store, they're most likely not available as game packages, 1. And 2, they're more specialized. We do recommend the Avenger Titan is the starter ship for this class of ship.
we do recommend the Warlock as the coolest variant.
That's true. That's true. And if you want to know why we think this thing is so good, it's essentially that it's easy to load up a good amount of cargo. It's easy to get into and fly. It flies pretty easily for a starter. But importantly, it actually has good guns. It has good sized guns, so which means you can take on content pretty early and have good firepower on it. And it's actually pretty tanky in comparison to a lot of the things on this list, so you'll survive a bit longer. It's very forgiving.
Yeah.
On the opposite end of the spectrum, in terms of combat capability, is our next ship, the Drake Cutter, which was your starter. So I'm going to let you tell us about your experiences on this thing.
Oh man, when I first started this game and we were selecting a starter for me, I wanted the goofiest thing that I could get, and let me tell you, this ship is goofy. It has some pluses. Like the cargo capacity on it, I think is pretty decent for compared to a lot of the starters.
Mm-hmm.
But the guns are rough. It has a fun vibe to it. Like it feels like you're riding around the verse in a conversion van, but that it kind of loses its charm pretty quickly because it doesn't fly very good and it is ugly and it blows up really fast.
Yeah. I mean, one other advantage it has, which I guess we haven't talked about too much, so I'll recap this for the rest of the list as well. It does have living quarters. Existing in the list, the only other two ships that have living quarters are the 325, the Aurora Mark II, and the Aurora Mark One, but the Aurora Mark One's like bare minimum. I don't believe the 100 has a bed, right?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. And that actually is important because you can log off on the ship, and in the future that might mean more. But the cutter does have living quarters. It actually has some of the larger living quarters of everything on the ship. So if that's something that actually interests you, the cutter has that. But something I have always found with the cutter is whenever I am trying to kill one, it seems to survive through the heat death of the universe and just does not want to die. And every time I fly in one, it blows up when a stiff wind blows on it.
Yeah, it's definitely got some crazy NPC tuning.
This thing will pull turns like you wouldn't believe, but it will not fly like that for you. I would say unless you want the vibe on this ship, it's probably not the best choice for you. But with that said, what it does do, it does well enough, and it's actually up to a pretty good standard in terms of where the game's at. I think this could be our first beats most, but it might just be cool enough.
I think I would put it in beats most because it's very cute.
That's true. Next up, we have our most expensive starter on the list, and I think that's going to be a very important discussion point around the Cutlass, the Drake Cutlass, which is our next ship. Specifically, the Cutlass Black, which is currently sold with a starter package and has been for a while. I would say it's the most advanced starter on the list, and the Cutlass continues to be one of those almost annoyingly efficient ships in the game. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I have been stuck. I shouldn't say stuck because, you know, but I've been stuck with only a Paladin and an Aurora Mark II in verse after the wipe, and I went and bought a Cutlass because it kind of just does everything. If I want to go do a quick mission in Pyro and I'm worried about maybe getting caught off guard by like a dude in a, you know, arrow or something, or even like a even even some guy in a gladius, I could hold him off for a little while and then run away, you know.
If
um
not outright kill them.
yeah, it's got a good amount of cargo space, something that because I like doing bunker bounties, and a ground vehicle for the most part is required. Sometimes I'll just land a ship super close, run in backspace. But having the ability to take a ground vehicle in the back of this, like a motorcycle or whatever you want to call it, is pretty important.
Yeah. And you can fit more than a bike in the back of this. You can fit multiple bikes. This thing can fit snubs. I mean, you can squeeze the pit bull into this thing if you want. It can fit the smaller ground vehicles. It has a turret seat if you have got a buddy playing with you. The biggest downside to the Cutlass is one, it's a Drake ship. Two, the fact that it's not up to the current visual standards in the game, and it doesn't have physicalized components and component access, which means it's lacking some gameplay that's currently in the game for other ships. And even with all of that, I think that if you're willing to, like, you're sold on Star Citizen, which if you are, I do think you should make sure you're well aware of the state of the game. But two, if you really are sold on it and you're just looking to buy the best ship you can right off the bat and experience the game with a starter package, it's probably the Cutlass.
Yeah. Or do what Chris Roberts wants you to do and spend like $1,000 on a Carrack.
Don't do that. Buy the Cutlass. And then later, if you still want to, buy the Carrack. But, I mean, I think that basically the use case of the Cutlass is if you want to spend more and you're not too concerned about where you're buying in at than the Aurora, then sure, buy the Cutlass. I think overall we recommend just buying the Aurora and upgrading to something like this later if you're enjoying the game. But this is available, and I do think it's a very good ship.
That's a Golem.
Tell me about the Golem.
I don't believe in pigeonholing yourself into a certain gameplay loop.
That's true. For new listeners, before you get into it, the Golem is the starting mining ship.
For me personally, any of the ones that are specific for something can only go in cool enough. That's my personal qualms. Because like imagine spending the money on a ship to play in Star Citizen. You think you like mining, even if you like the look of the ship, and you go and do mining and it sucks, then you're stuck with that as your starter until you mine enough to buy another ship. I that's my problem with like the specific starters.
I think I do agree to a point. And the reason I say this is because all the other starters, essentially your two gameplay loops that you have access to because of those ships, is early combat and early hauling. And the Golem is only mining. You can still do FPS content in any of these, realistically, because FPS content doesn't require a ship. But for all of these, if you want to do something outside of that, the recommendation you're going to hear is to rent another ship. I think that equally applies to the Golem. I think that the reason I overall agree with you is because most gameplay loops outside of combat and hauling aren't really fleshed out enough. I think mining is kind of up there, though. If one of these is going to be a little bit better, it might be the Golem, only because of the fact that mining is actually a pretty full-fledged gameplay loop at this point.
Yeah. If there was one of them, it would be that. But I think for me, it goes in cool enough.
I don't feel strongly enough about the Golem to argue with you about that, is the honest answer, which probably says enough about it.
I also think it's ugly.
I also agree with that. I do think no, it's bottom of cool enough too. I can't even make an argument for it to go over the Arrow or the 325.
Yeah, I can't.
All right. Next up is my starter, the Crusader Intrepid, which I am a big fan of and I stay a big fan of.
And now we're talking about a good ship.
The Intrepid it's another classic kind of starter that it has some cargo, it has some combat capability, and it's going to get you from point A to point B. What is more unique about the starter for the Intrepid is it has only one gun. It's got one size 4 gun, which if you swap out that gun can get interesting, but it is enough to do most early combat missions. And if you compare it to something like the Aurora Mark II, it's basically just a little bit worse than the Aurora Mark II in combat and a little bit worse in cargo if you put the cargo module in the Mark II. What the Intrepid picks up over the Aurora is it is much faster. It actually has a lot of quantum fuel. It has among the most quantum fuel on this list, actually. And it has probably the best living quarters of every ship that we're going to talk about for the starters, which means that if you like to roleplay or you want to have that just nice environment to be in, the Intrepid has that. With that said, it's $35 more expensive. That is a big problem for it. And it doesn't have enough going for it in comparison to the Aurora Mark II. Not
at all. It's unfortunate because it is a cool ship, and I think it's one of the best vibes on this list. But it does. Like the Aurora Mark II is just it's transcendent for a reason. It's better than the Cutter, so I like what you did there. But I don't know if it's better.
I don't think it's better than the Avenger. No, the Avenger can do everything this can again, but a little bit better.
And cheaper.
And cheaper. I mean, the big advantage the Intrepid largely has is that it's unique. And yeah. I do think that, actually, this is worth noting, the two ships we have in Beats Most are, oddly enough, the two ships on this list that can be stealthier than everything else. The Intrepid and the Cutter can be incredibly stealthy ships. I don't know why the Cutter can be. The Intrepid's coming from a manufacturer that makes a smuggling ship, so that makes some degree of sense. But that is a very niche thing, and that is not enough to bump the price on this ship by as much as it is.
Yeah, I don't feel like it matters enough yet,
Yeah, I agree with that.
I feel like we all just watched your world tumble down because you were ready to put that thing pretty high up, and then.
No, I knew it was worse than these. I just like it a lot. I personally like it a lot, but I think objectively, I know it's worse than. I know it's worse than the Aurora. I gripe about it being worse than the Avenger. I'm not going to try to make the argument it's better than the Cutlass as a ship, at least.
Yeah.
And the I'll say this: if this was a little bit cheaper, then maybe I would say it was better than the Cutlass because of the price point. But it's not. It's way closer to Cutlass in price than a lot of the other stuff on this list is.
It is, yeah. The one thing we didn't talk about when we were talking about the Cutlass is you can take the Aurora for $45 and very quickly grind up to like the 2 million that the Cutlass Black is in game.
I mean, all of these you can get pretty quickly in game.
No,
All of
yeah,
these.
yeah. That's why I've
Mm-hmm.
had so many of them in the past, is because they're very cheap and I like buying ships.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most fun.
Next up is the Mustang, which I think we both think is the worst ship in the game.
Is there
Not
a
from a
way to
critical
add another
perspective.
tier?
I could. Okay, to actually talk about this ship, it's old. It doesn't do anything on better than anything on this list, and it's ugly.
Yeah. Yeah, this is another Aurora Mark One situation where you see a lot of these in early combat missions, and I just love watching them explode.
If you guys hadn't figured that out about us already, we do love blowing up Mustangs.
Yeah, it's the best. Let's just not talk about this thing anymore.
Yeah, I don't really want to. Up next is Nomad, another consolidated Outlands ship, and one that is significantly better with one massive downside and a meta reason, which we'll get to.
Yeah, so I upgraded my cutter to a Nomad back in the day, and I liked the Nomad. I think it's fun to fly around.
It's a
I
space
think
pickup truck. What's
it's a
not to
space
like?
pickup truck. Yeah, and it works for that.
It does.
I don't know if this works all the time. Probably not. But I used to, when I didn't have like any gear, any FPS gear, I would grab like I would go do like a bunker mission in Pyro, and I would throw a bunch of bodies in the back and then fly away from the because they would just respawn.
Mm-hmm.
I would just fly away and steal all their gear and put it into storage in the ship.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth noting that this is another starter that actually can carry a ground vehicle relatively easily. I mean, the cutter can carry like a bike, but this can carry a couple of things, including like the Atlas suits if you want to do vehicle mining, and it can carry a lot on it. I think it actually has among the largest cargo capacities of everything on this list besides the Cutlass. Now, I think it's worth noting that this is the same price as the Intrepid, and they are very similar ships. They both kind of have their niches. The Nomad is actually another one that has a good interior to it. It has a good living quarters.
Yeah.
It's a little bit worse in combat. It's not as mobile as the Intrepid. You're basically making that trade off, and you get the extra cargo, which is on the exterior, so it's not protected. For that reason, I think that these are equivalently almost the same ship in different flavors. So pick which one you like the look of more if you're interested in one of these.
Now, for personal reasons, it is based off of the worst pickup truck ever made.
Yep.
So my heart says dog tier,
My heart says the same. But I
but
will.
my brain says it's beats most.
I know. We'll just have to live with it and move on. Next up, we have the Pisces, both the regular and the Expedition. The Pisces is a ship I see. I just struggle to see why it exists as a starter. This is actually a snub with a quantum drive at most. It can carry
Yeah,
a minimal amount of cargo. It can do effectively no combat, but it can fit in a lot of other ships. That's all it's got.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm one of the biggest Anvil stands, and the ship sucks.
As a taxi, it's fine.
I like the medical one. I think that's kind of cool because medical gameplay, when that is a thing, that's going to be like up there for me. And I know it's like a minimal thing now, but
I mean, it's also, unfortunately, the medical one's just not a starter as well.
that's a good point. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you for catching me on that.
So really, you're
You'll
looking
never
at the
do it
the
again.
base C8, and it's a taxi that can carry a minimal amount of cargo. You can fit a bike in the back because it does have, the ability to do that, but you're just not. Of everything on this list, I think you would be having the worst time trying to do combat in a Pisces than anything else on this list, except maybe the Golem. Maybe.
Yeah. I feel like the Golem probably is a little bit more survivable even.
It probably is.
Didn't look at the armor specs. My bad.
I might actually think this is a worse starter than the Aurora Mark 1 now that the Aurora Mark 1 has a gold standard pass.
I'm here for it.
Pisces is a big no. Don't get the Pisces.
Don't get it.
All right, next we have a very Star Wars ship, the Reliant, the Misk Reliant, which can rotate like a B-Wing. These are very cool ships that also are in desperate need of being updated. Desperate need of being updated.
I have never even stepped on that ship.
I have. It has variants that are okay for combat, which is going to end up being what I actually think it is better than these three ships. You can do more in it, but it's just really goofy. And the second that you get on anything else, you'll see how dated this ship is and how much it's in desperate need of an update. And when it gets updated, it's probably going to be awesome. I have no doubt about that. When the Reliant gets an update, it'll be one of the coolest starters. But it's been left very far behind, and it frequently has bugs because of it, which is like, I feel like it straddles between dog tier and cool enough. I'm not exactly sure if I'd put it at the top of one or the bottom of the other.
I'd put it at dog tier.
Fair enough.
No argument.
Second to last, we have our last specialized starter ship, which is also relatively new, the RSI Salvation, which is the starter salvaging ship. This is effectively a very similar role to the Golem, but for a gameplay loop that is less mature, it has less going for it. I just can't recommend buying a starter ship for salvage yet. And I know you're going to agree, but I do think you think the ship looks pretty cool. So let's hear about that.
Yeah. So I think it looks cool. I think salvage will be really fun at some point. I don't have a problem sitting there doing Power Wash Simulator in Star Citizen sometimes when I'm bored with other gameplay loops. So for me, it goes above the Golem on looks and what it could be one day.
And like you said, salvage can be enjoyable to do from time to time. And I know there's people out there that really enjoy salvaging even now, and power to you guys. But I think for most players, there's just not enough gameplay in that loop for it to be the only thing you have access to for your first many hours in the game while you get a good handle on it and you get going. At least with mining, there's more variation. There's actual good contracts that have more than just getting a salvage target. And this ship is actually also missing part of the salvage gameplay loop, which is the ability to actually store components that you take off ships and put them on board. On something like the Step Up on like the Vulture or the Moth, you can EVA out to a ship, pull components, and store them on board. But this ship has no storage grid for anything except the salvage it's pulling, so you're not even doing that. I'm almost surprised that the ship has a starter package.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. I didn't even think about that. Because the Vulture used to have a starter package, right?
The Vulture used to have a starter package back in the day, and maybe because of that, it should be on this list. If you are interested in getting into salvage, it's your first gameplay loop for whatever reason. If the Vulture is available, maybe pick that. That's another Drake ship, but we'll leave that for another time. All right, what's our last ship?
Oh yeah. There we go. There it is. This is the one. This is the one. This is it, baby. I don't know what I'm doing. Cut that shit. I love alien ships. I think that there should be more alien starters. I think we need to see an Asperia starter. I think we need to see a Vandal starter.
I really want an Asperia starter now.
I want to see, yeah, you do. I want to see an Ayapoa starter. I want to see all of them make cool starters that are around this price. I think this ship is so freaking cool. I think I remember we were streaming to some friends and I had this ship for a long time. I had the executive hangar one. Yeah, and I love this ship. I think it is super sweet looking. I think I've said that like 4 times now. The way that you load cargo on it is super cool. It cannot hold a lot of cargo and it can only hold 1 SU crates, so you're super limited in hauling. That's a bummer. That's an oversight, I feel, and maybe one day will get looked at, but kind of doubt it because it's an alien ship. But this ship is just so impressive. Like the technology in the transformation, like go look up a video of it moving around. I think it's super cool looking. Now, there are some downsides to it that I'm man enough to admit. If you take this thing into combat, especially PvP, you are gonna get chewed up and spit out.
You are a barn. You are a flying barn.
Yeah, those the triangular little wing things get shot off so fast, and your guns are on those. So you lose guns in combat pretty often. But I did it. I would take it out just because I liked it so much.
I think another downside on this ship, from a starter perspective, is this thing flies really, really weird when you first get in it. Because it lands and takes off differently than every other ship in the game. And that is not communicated to you at all. If you don't know that when you first get in the ship, you are going to hit your keys and crash your ship into your hangar within 30 seconds of getting into it. I think this thing has maybe the coolest looking appeal of everything on this list, except maybe the Intrepid for me, because I'm super biased and I like Crusader ships. And
Yeah,
is incredibly impractical because you can't take a ground vehicle on this either. It has good living quarters. It's another one that has good living quarters.
it's got really cool living quarters. It's dark in there, but that's okay.
Yeah, aliens don't need light.
Mm-mm.
I think that this thing is really cool. And primarily, I think a big thing here is if you're not interested in hauling as a dedicated career path or something you want to do early in the game to make money, but you might need to haul a crate or two occasionally, that makes this a better choice. The problem is, I don't really know what gameplay loops that leaves for us because it's not very good at combat either. All of the starting cargo missions sometimes ask you to move a 2 SCU crate, and if it asks you to do that, you just can't do it. So you have to both doubly look to say, hey, this is only 6 SCU in this mission, and it's only giving me 1 SCU crates, so I can actually take this mission, which narrows you incredibly. And then you have issues in combat. It's like, what do you actually use this for? Other than getting to look really cool.
Well, they do call it a Pathfinder, which I don't know what that means, but it sounds cool.
It's probably going to get exploration stuff one day, which makes sense for how nice the living quarters on this are. It's a long range ship that you explore on. We do not have exploration gameplay yet. It is not a thing that is actually in the game. There is no full scanning gameplay. Do not buy this off of the hope that it might one day get those things, because we don't know what they're going to look like.
But we do know what this ship looks like. So if you want to buy it off of that, go ahead.
I can leave it in cool enough because it is better than everything that's in dog tier. And I do think I would put it above the Golem, but I don't think I'd put it above the Arrow or the 325.
No, definitely
If somebody
not.
was asking me what to buy for the game, I do not think I'd put it above those.
Yeah, I would tell him to buy the Sulin, but that's because I'm an agent of chaos.
Yeah, I mean, the Sulin in reality, it's kind of competing with the Intrepid, and the Nomad is more advanced starters. But it kind of does it worse than either of those, and the big thing you're gaining is that it's an alien ship.
Yeah.
Maybe one
I
day
agree.
I'm going to go to bed thinking about an Asperia starter now. Like, I want that. And you've done that to me. Maybe one day we'll get that, and that'll be the recommendation we have for an alien starter. But yeah, we don't have that yet. I don't think we'll ever get a Vanduul starter.
Well, we should. So, hey guys, if you made it this far, that must mean that you think we are just okay. You might even say usually all right, just like our opinions. If so, shoot us a like, maybe even subscribe. I don't even know what benefits you get for subscribing to YouTube channels. I don't understand it. I do it all the time. But I know it helps like those people out, and I think that's pretty cool.